Welcome back to Down the Slope. Hibs are unbeaten in 11, as you will see on our episode title. I am joined by what is now a full house, unfortunately. I have only got Craig and Liam with me as Harry is away on his travels. He's just ventured back down the road. Like, I don't see why he's not on the night. He doesn't leave till tomorrow. But Liam, just how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm really glad that with Harry not being here, you've not got strength in numbers to talk about the Slytherin winning the Quidditch World Cup at the weekend. And
Don't
we
worry, me.
can
I
we
wouldn't
can
be
we
talking
can
about
we,
that.
we can move on for any potential Quidditch talk for the next well, hopefully few
Well, it's
few
not back
months
till
at least.
September now, mate. So that's
Oh, is it? Oh,
aye,
fucking hell!
that's it
Some
done, eh?
off season they have, eh?
Mate, I'm
Mickey
lost.
Mouse sport.
I don't
Mickey
know
Mouse
what
sport.
I don't know what I'm gonna do for for Sundays for the next 7 months. Maybe do some housework or take the dug out or maybe just talk to Lauren for 6 o'clock onwards on a Sunday night. Well, there's loads of options there that I'm sure I'll find something else. Craig, how you doing, mate?
Not bad, buddy, not bad.
Aye. Missing your wee pal yet?
I was crying this morning, so
Oh, well, no, but say first. We wish him all his best on his travels, and we look forward to his return. But we went travelling with him on Friday night, Craig, down to Ayrshire. It was a testy car journey. Listening to him tell me how now I'm going to get this in here early. How Dylan Levitt is one of the
oh
best
fuck.
football players to play for Hibs this century, and Jesus fuck, I nearly screamed so loud the car went off the road. But Hibs made the trip down on Friday night, Craig. In the end, a 1-0 victory. I don't. What was your general feelings? Did you feel like that was coming?
Well, as I was saying to you and Harry before the game, I was quite concerned to be fair. I know there was a lot of people, certainly on our trip, are quite blasé about it and expecting us to just turn up and roll them over. But I was a wee bit concerned. I think it's quite a difficult venue to go to, especially sort of a nighttime game. They were going to be right up for it. So yeah, I was a wee bit nervous going into the game for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, Liam, what was your thoughts going into the game, and as it progressed?
I think my thoughts were quite clear last week. I was worried about it, to be honest. I think you know that I was a wee bit worried. I just felt like it had all the optics and all the narrative of a potential cup upset, just with them being top of the championship. Obviously, I think unbeaten themselves. All of the ex Hibs and Hearts connections. I don't know. The story just kind of felt like it was written going into the game.
Hmm.
And as we were driving through, I think I think we, to an extent, probably shared my worries, shall we say.
Hmm.
So I think when there's two of you who are a wee bit worried about it on the way through there, I think it helps to build that
Yep.
worriedness.
So we had quite a balanced car journey, I think, in terms of a swell of opinion. Craig and Bex were thinking it was going to be a difficult game, quite tight. I thought it was going to be a difficult game. I envisaged it playing out a bit different. I thought there was going to be quite a lot of goals in the game, but Hibs would edge it. I think I'd said something stupid like 4-2 before the game or something. Maybe just because both teams were on such good runs, and then obviously Harry had Hibs winning about 6-1 or something. Um, but look, before we go into the game and stuff, it was my first visit to Somerset Park, I think. Have both of yous maybe been there once before? What did you make of the atmosphere as a whole and the ground and stuff? Was it an enjoyable evening from I was gonna say a non-footballing perspective, if that makes sense? You know, that everything else that went on round the game.
I think just being. I mean, the aesthetic of the ground is lovely, and I like going to those old wee grounds. I think if they were to get promoted, I think just in terms of infrastructure, they'd have to do quite a bit of work to the railway end. The facilities, shall we say, were not the best, and a lack of catering, I think, was an option for was a drawback for some. But yeah, I mean, like cracking wee ground, obviously, in terms
Hmm.
of how it looks, and they've obviously updated that other stand on the other side, which we aren't in. But I love terracing, so it suits me down to the ground to be standing and watching the game. So I was absolutely delighted with that. But I think just both the way in and the exit from the ground, as well as the
Yeah.
the toilets, were not ideal.
Yeah, Craig, before I get you were obviously up in the, would I call it main stand? I would always say a main stand is when the
Correct. Yep.
players come out. Aye, but before I get your opinion on being in there, Aki's just made a comment. Can we just have a moment to talk about the steward being a massive knob for no reason whatsoever and stopping folk from actually just getting into the ground after the game had started? Well, they weren't too keen on letting us out either. We sort of, myself, Liam, and
Oh,
Lee.
we got out though.
Aye, I
We
know you
stayed
got out.
behind. We
Well,
followed the
mate.
guy with the moon boot.
No, well, what I stayed because the game was still going on, and I think you guys maybe snuck out just before the full time whistle,
Just
and
10 seconds before the whistle.
in between they were fucking opening and closing the gate and couldn't make their mind up if you were getting out or no, and then it was like they just shut the gate for what felt like an eternity, but obviously it wasn't. But oh, just the screams, it just anything that just is a minor inconvenience to people just brings the utter best in everyone, doesn't it? You know, just the amount of shite that they like sort of 6 or 7 police officers took as I mean it was probably uncalled for. One police officer was begging mercy and saying that it wasn't their decision, it was the stewardess' decision, and I don't think that went down well either. But I enjoyed my Friday night in Ayrshire. Craig, what was it like up in the posh seats?
I was
You had
just
a
going to say
chair and
that.
everything.
It was lovely looking down on all you peasants sort of down in amongst it. I've been here once before, and I was in the railway end. And to be honest, I thought they might have improved the facilities a wee bit since that. It was when John McGinn scored and we won 3-0 a few years
Mm.
ago, I think, championship. Uh, and it was absolutely shocking back then, like really bad. And I thought for sure, like, what is that, 5, 6 years or something, there's bound to be something done. In fact, it'll be longer than that, actually.
Nine, 8, 9 maybe.
Ah, uh, so our stand was lovely. It was proper old-fashioned, like good facilities. Toilets were brand new as well, so that was lovely. I've got nothing but good things to say.
Is what when you come away from the game on Friday night, do you the Ayr become the team you want promoted from the championship if they weren't already then after your visit there? You know, we've had Livingston for a long time. With Falkirk's not exactly atmospheric or a great away day, is it? You know, it's in the middle of an
It's
industrial
also
estate.
Falkirk.
Exactly, aye. Like, but you know, from that sort of away trip point of view, would Ayr be a little bit different? Would they be your tip or
It
one?
gets another derby in the league, doesn't it? And
Yeah,
Kilmarnock here does seem to be there seems to be quite a sort
bit
of
of heat.
a needle between them. It's not like the what was it, the North Lanarkshire derby with Motherwell and Hamilton, where there was just like no interest
Mental.
in that whatsoever. Killie here do seem to. I think it's got the novelty factor of it's got a Kelly
Yeah,
fan
yeah.
work and pals it. The novelty fact they don't play each other that often as well. So it's got kind of that like when they play each other, it's quite exciting. So I think they would be my pick, and obviously the Hibs connections help as well. You know, I think, to be honest, I think Scott Brown spoke like someone who, after the game, who maybe sees himself as a future Hibs manager. I did think, you know, he was very balanced, probably more balanced than you're used to hearing opposition managers be after the game, which I thought was interesting. So I'd have no issues with them getting
Yeah.
back into the top
I
flight.
mean, Craig Ryan makes a great point there in the YouTube comments. Natural grass pitch, that makes them my automatic promotion choice over the other two. It seems to be a three-way battle, doesn't it, at this point in the championship? But would Ayr get the nod for you as well?
Uh, it's a difficult one. I definitely wouldn't give Livingston the nod, that's for sure. Been there, done that far too many times. Don't want anything to do with them anymore. Uh, to be honest, I don't mind the thought of Falkirk coming up because I hate them so much. I just think it'd be such like there's at least a wee bit of hatred there.
Hmm.
Uh, as petty as that sounds, but I enjoyed my trip there. I would go again, and I'd never even thought about the Ayrshire Derby, so that's a good shout as well.
Aye. No, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I'd be quite happy to see them get promoted. Anyway, that's enough championship football talk and stadium talk. Hibs made one change to the starting 11. Miko, was that right? It was just Miko, wasn't it? That came in for Dwight Gale. Didn't exactly have his best game, but someone else, and they're going to go straight on to Kevin Clancy. Someone else that had a pretty horrendous game. I don't think we would normally talk about an individual yellow card, but how on earth is Nectar Chan has been booked for a perfectly good tackle and what I think was not only it might even have been the first tackle of the game, never even mind the first foul of the game. Like that was just utter ridiculous, wasn't it? And Scott Brown sort of nailed it, I think, after the game with his sort of post-match analysis of it, just saying that it was just a referee and a fourth official trying to make it about themselves. Just awful. What is there any train of thought there, Liam, that you could think that would be a booking, like in any way?
I think what people, I think if you were going to go and listen to one of the referees' podcasts, I think what they would say they would probably talk about follow through would be the argument, would be the
Hmm.
would be the sort of just cause. But I think if you look at it's Conor McLennan, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he takes a really, really heavy touch, which then sort of invites the tackle from Trianis. I don't think there is actually any follow through contact that's created by Trianis. I think if you slow it down, I think it's initiated by the air
Aye.
player. So it's not so follow through can't be a justification, I don't think, in this circumstance. I think the only thing maybe that they would try and pin it on would be excessive force. But I think what happens in football now, when you've got to go to a 50-50 ball, you do have to do it at a certain speed in order to win the 50-50. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're in danger of losing the 50-50. And I just think this is another classic example of hasn't played the game, doesn't really understand the game, and looks at it from a very technocratic point of view, which I think a lot of referees do. They come at it from a very technocratic position rather than looking to understand the situation.
I don't really know what to say there because trying to piece together what technocratic might mean because that is definitely not a word I've got in my
Uh,
vocabulary.
it's when you're obsessed with the technical details rather than focusing on the big picture.
I think I probably could assess that one out just
Aye,
about.
sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, Craig, look, like I'm going to ask you a question here that's maybe going to sound a bit tin hat. I don't think an Air player even gets a foul given against them if it's the lower league team crashing into the Premier League player like that. I don't. I think he doesn't even. I think he doesn't even think twice about giving a foul there. And maybe that is tin hat, but I don't know. I just
Maybe. Listen, at the end of the day, refs are human beings, so that just as much as players will subconsciously buy into sort of atmospheres and storylines, I suppose referees in the back of their mind maybe can do that as well.
hmm
Uh, but yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just probably the optics of the challenge don't look great for a referee. He just sees him flying in. Maybe there's a wee bit of studs on show, although he does sort of make a point. You can see him putting his feet down as he goes into the challenge. Uh, I just think it's just a great challenge. It's the bottom line.
yeah.
It's not even a foul, never mind a yellow card. So
I
he's
gen
got that one wrong.
See when them like melee started, I think I turned round to Liam and said, "Is this a foul at Hibs?" Like like on observation, I sort of thought, has the guy like followed through on him? Do you know, like maybe like I don't know, stomped him or something like that. But anyway, look, the reason we're talking about a referee there is the opening thought. Like the first half was a bit dull when it really Hibs weren't at their best. Air, probably edged it, maybe even, or maybe not edged it. Both teams had one probably really good chance each. Jordan Smith made a great save, one on one. Was it from George Oakley?
Aye, Oakley, aye.
And Martin Boyle missed a really good
Two.
headed opportunity. Did he miss
Mm,
another one in the first half as well?
Yeah,
no,
the
the
one where he
second
cut back
half.
inside.
Oh well, this
Was that the
Josh
first one?
Campbell whipped it to the back post and Boyle takes it down, cuts back, and he kind of just scuffs his shot
see
right into
Liam.
the keeper.
This is where us and the peasants at the other end would have had absolutely no
No
context to how
idea
close
what's
he
going
was to
on.
goal there already.
No,
Aye.
it was a good chance. It was a good chance, to be fair.
So what did you make of the Hibs first half performance, Craig? Like.
I was satisfied. Like there was a few folk rumbling around me. Like I was. I think probably because going into the game, I was so concerned that like I just had images of air starting fast, us like deer in the headlights style performance. So I was just quite happy that we took the sting out of it,
Mhm.
and I was quite confident that we were going to pick them apart and create chances sort of as we were going into the game. So I genuinely wasn't too worried. Like they got one chance that ultimately came probably from not an out and out mistake, but defensive switch off. So I wasn't overly concerned, to be honest.
Liam, what about you? In the terracing, what we call it Friday night tax, there was definitely not as much calmness as what Craig's displaying there about the first half performance.
Uh,
Did you feel similarly to those around us, or were you
there's a
more aligned to
wee,
Craig's?
I mean, I will say handful, and I don't even know if it was as many as five folk, but there was a few wee boos, wasn't there, at half
Oh, aye.
time? I think I think people were maybe on the back of probably a 10 game unbeaten run, maybe thinking we're going to come in and steamroll them despite them being top in the championship. And I didn't ever think it was going to be that kind of night, to be honest with you. So I think maybe my expectations had just been set a wee bit lower, and therefore I was
Hmm.
kind of prepared for a tough night. It wasn't a classic first half, let's be honest. The quality of the game's quite poor. You and I commented a couple of times, as did a couple of my mates. It was just about how many times players were slipping.
Yeah.
I think there was that seemed to be a bit of an issue, particularly in the first half and sort of one side of the pitch. So no, it wasn't a classic, and I did feel, you touched on him earlier on. I did feel, Miko and the team. I felt we were very disjointed in an attacking sense. Like the ball was going up, it wasn't sticking. On the times where we did have, a potential counter attack opportunity because Air did come at us a wee bit. He just couldn't find the right pass or couldn't get the ball out of his feet. It was not to labour too much on the individual performance because obviously we got through it. It was a really, really grim sort of 55 minutes for him.
Yeah, for me, just he looks like a player of absolutely shot of confidence, and I think I think we commented on it in the game that that's actually only like other than Clydebank, that's he's only started day two games since his injury, and obviously the two or three really big chances that he missed at Celtic Park as well. So but he's not probably got any sort of good muscle memory maybe just now. Would that be the sort of right way to describe it on a football pitch? But I just felt like he really lacked a
Quality.
like even just like a purpose or a decisiveness. Like I know the time in the first half where like he got the ball out wide to sort of counter and he just
Uh,
sort of dallied on it a little bit and just didn't really do anything. It just stunk of a lack of confidence as much as anything else for me. I think from Miko on Friday was, seeing as we're talking about a negative, was there anyone else maybe that you thought maybe didn't quite live up to it on Friday night? Then we absolutely will come on to the positives as well, of course.
I just thought the midfield in general was a wee bit anonymous. Like the midfield three in general was a wee bit anonymous. Like I don't think anyone had like an all timer or anything like that in the way that Miko did, but I just felt the midfield three didn't really offer a huge amount throughout the game. And I think that's probably reflected in the first half in a game that we really struggled to take control of
Hmm.
because, it was 3-on-3 in the midfield. And actually, if anything, you'd probably say the Air maybe slightly got the better of that. Because I think where we did hurt them, generally, it was in the wider areas. Even later in the game, that seemed to be our main threat, was getting the ball wide, usually to the Caddens, who I think, to their credit, certainly Chris Cadden first half and probably Nicky Cadden second half, I think were probably our two best attacking players on the day.
Yeah, 100%. I was just about to say that as a highlight for me in terms of the first half, it was definitely Chris Cadden's sort of endeavour on the right hand side, but also defensively as well. Craig, was there anyone else sort of specifically first half that you felt should be called out?
Not really. I just thought, I just, probably the same with Liam. We just lacked options when we had the ball. It just didn't really look like there was much on.
Hmm.
Like I say, I wasn't overly worried about the performance, but we were, I'm not gonna say we were poor, but we just didn't really do much. Uh, I don't think the midfield as a whole offered enough, and I also don't think, I know you guys have already touched on, but Miko as a striker, a lot of people talk about a striker's job just being like sort of out and out attacking things and putting the ball in the back of the net, but he has to do more, like linking up play, has to do more because
Yeah.
he's majorly failing at that part of his job.
Yeah, so the second half sort of as a whole was a massive improvement, but Kieran Bowie came on fairly early, as you said, Liam, for Miko. Do you think that change in itself is sort of what drove us forward in the game, because I think we were on top for the majority of the second half, if I'm being totally honest.
No, I agree. I think second half, and I kind of said to use, I felt like the goal was coming from probably not long after Bowie came on the park. It was just I can't actually say that on an individual basis Bowie did anything that was like particularly outstanding, but I just noticed that our sort of our urgency and our play just like upped
Yep.
very shortly after he came on the pitch. But I would really struggle, and perhaps because I'm not got the footballing brain for it, but I would really struggle to tell you anything specifically that he did to make that happen. But I did feel as though things lifted when he came on.
I
I,
see. I actually felt that. Sorry, I was just going to say what specific things that that changed when he came on. I just felt it was so much more of a presence and so much like when the ball was going into attacking areas, as opposed to the first half, it was going in there and kind of staying there
yeah.
a bit more often. It was the ball was just sticking to him a lot better than it was Miko.
It's a lot easier to build attacks that way as well, isn't it? And or build sustained
100%.
pressure. I, I would say it was the opposite. Look, he gave the ball away. He did. Like, that's like, but strikers will do that. Do you know what I mean? Like all players will do that. It wasn't like he came on and I think you're right, Liam, in what you say. Like it's not like he came on and was outstanding, but to probably the opposite of what I said about Miko, I think he most things he done was with a purpose, and he was always sort of looking to try and get the ball back in towards the goal if he picked it up out on the left hand side. And yeah, it was for me. I think sort of confirmation probably it's more minutes in his legs as well. It's the longest the sort of biggest burst to get minutes that he's had, and for me it's I've seen enough there from Kieran Bow that I think he should be starting this weekend. I think it's the natural next step. Unfortunately, I think Dwight Gale's sort of dropped off it probably in the last couple of games that he'd started as well, and maybe just needs a period to let his body maybe recover a little bit. And Miko clearly is just short of confidence, so I would be looking at getting Bowie straight back in the team. But there's two sort of people that we need to be talking about here in the second half, doesn't there? One of them scored a goal, and I tell you what, one of them I thought was going to flap one into his own net, but then he managed to catch it. I'll let one of you have Jordan Smith and one of you have Rocky Bashiri. Who would you like, Craig?
I'll take Bashiri. Because see, when I was watching that game, honestly, I kept saying, Harry, I was like, by the way, Bashiri has been unreal. Oh, like, and this was before his goal. I just thought he absolutely bossed everything. It's, I know folk will point to it only being air, but sometimes in these games, like, it's actually probably more difficult as a centre half because there's so much physical uh, presence to these teams, and their whole game plan is to noise up centre halves. Like I can guarantee before the game they would have been looking at Rocky as a weakness, and let's put him under pressure and force him into a
Hmm.
mistake. But he was just superb. He dealt with everything so well. Uh, he bailed out Iredale on a few occasions, particularly in the second half, where the ball was going round the corner. Iredale and Rocky's come across and just shielded it back to the goalie. And then obviously icing on the cake, he gets his head on a winning goal. So no, I thought he was as close to a 10 out of 10 as you can get in a Hibs shot against there.
Yep, Liam, I'm not going to be entirely horrible. Absolutely feel free to talk about the goal scorer, as well as I think it's right to highlight Jordan Smith's performance.
I don't really have an awful lot to add on the Rocky point. I felt like he was having a really good game up until the goal, like Craig, and it was a performance that's just probably, in some ways, quite a nice summary of the last sort of 12 games that he's had in running the team. He did virtually everything right defensively, and then he gets a goal, which is a really vital goal, and not the first vital goal that he's scored. The importance of the three goals that he's scored so far, just cannot be overstated.
Yep,
Like vital goals. And then, but Smith, I think good save from Oakley in the first half. Those ones as a goalkeeper, require timing and an element of precision. He did very well. I think a good save from Roos towards the end of the game, and then a very unorthodox save, shall we say, from Jamie Murphy. But all that matters, he keeps out the net. I don't think any of the three are saves that I wouldn't want my goalie to make. I always feel a bit uncomfortable saying expect them to make because I think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of version, but wouldn't want them to make. But that doesn't devalue their importance to the team. I think it's again another really steady performance for Smith. And another one that he can sort of you look back on and it just gives you a bit more confidence in him as a keeper and the team going the
yep.
way to a place like that and keeping a clean sheet.
Well, that's it. We've only conceded 2 goals in our last 5 games, and that's so. I think it's only right that we are highlighting the sort of middle because
I
I do.
read I read today we were averaging keep conceding 1.75 under Bursick and now averaging one per game under Smith.
Well, there you go. I mean, the only games that we've conceded more than one goal in this run, po- obviously the Aberdeen game, but then it's literally just Celtic away and Rangers at home. We've conceded either none or one in every other game, which when you sort of look back to the start of the season, that is, as you just say, like it is chalk and cheese, and perhaps Michael Stewart should have maybe looked into that before he decided to start blabbing off on Premier Sports on deadline day. Because I think it's easy to, and look, we still said maybe we do need a goalkeeper, maybe we do need centre backs. Like, we're not saying that, but I think it's easy to see a narrative at the start of a season and then just run with that and not acknowledge that there has actually been clear signs of improvements, and it hasn't just been a case of, oh, Martin Boyle started scoring goals and Hibs are winning games, 3-2 or 4. Like, we look, in my opinion, extremely defensively solid, Craig, and I think the goalkeeper, in my opinion, definitely in the Aberdeen and Ayr game, has actually played a massive part in that, and sort of a calmness as much as anything else.
It's I don't think it's just down to a goalie or anything like that. Even the stat that Liam reads out there about the 1.75 goals compared to one. So obviously it's confidence, isn't it? As a defensive unit, there's so many less mistakes getting made. We're doing the basics better, and ultimately, I think even just as a goalie, like if you just do basic things right and do them well, most of the time that's just about enough. You don't really. How often do you actually have to make a worldly save? You don't really have to that often. So I think if you just stay steady and keeps doing away as he is,
Hmm.
everybody will be happy enough with that. And the defenders in front of him, a bit of continuity is coming and help that out as well, obviously. So no, they're doing well just now. Like you quite rightly say, there's definitely still room for improvement, and we definitely still could get better players. But as a unit, they're doing well together just now. So you don't
Uh-huh.
mix that up too much.
And well, Liam, as the old saying goes, Hibs are in the hat for the next round. And not every big team that had championship opposition this weekend are. Um, Apparently, one of the three or four Glasgow teams lost yesterday. Don't know if you heard about that.
Mm.
Do you want to comment on that, and then maybe give me who you would like to play in the next round?
I mean, I don't have anything hugely funny or off the cuff to say about it, other than that I just had a really good laugh yesterday, to be honest, watching it. Um, it was absolutely hilarious. I only switched on for I think the last 15 minutes of the game, so I'd missed the goal, and I got to see Queen's Park hold on, I think, actually quite comfortably. Um, just the mere fact that they still couldn't do it, even with a very, very, very dubious helping hand after the minimum number of minutes had passed, um, was
I
was
know.
was real comedy gold.
What I was listening to it on the radio now I played golf yesterday down in Livingston, and it was fucking minging. Really, I don't know what I was thinking, but so I put on the radio coming up the road, and all you could hear was just the frustration, just coming. Oh, it was fucking unreal. Like, just I wasn't listening to the commentators or anything. I was just listening to all that Steve Craig in the stands, and it is look, it's funny, but it's good for Hibs as well, ultimately, because it
Ah,
is another potential sort of winner slash favourite for the competition that are out. I think I might have seen something earlier that Hibs are now got Hibs are on the bookies as second favourites, which I don't
no,
like.
no, no, I don't like that either, particularly to be honest. At the moment, I would say, does it make a great difference? Yeah, it probably does if you avoid Celtic up until the final. But ultimately, I think if you want to win the Scottish Cup, you're still gonna have to beat Celtic, because I don't really see Celtic getting
Hmm.
beat at all.
Yep.
Uh, we were sort of discussing that earlier. Hopefully, they get like some sort of difficult away trip that can maybe trip them up a wee bit. But no, I actually missed the entire Rangers game. I was at my pals and completely forgot it was even on, and sort of had dismissed it. And then it was all what a surprise that was to open my phone to when I was
I,
leaving. Brilliant.
I think there's almost something better about that though. Maybe almost, just like just like hours later, you're just seeing what the score was. You go, oh yeah, fucker,
I had to
like
scrape my
that.
jaw off the floor. Can you believe it?
I know. So who would you like to see in the next round? Because and I'm gonna ask both of you not to do this because I know that all three of us and we're gonna have to lie here like we lie about score predictions every week because all three of us want the shittest team in the competition at home because we're
Yes,
sensible human beings. But
yes,
so if you weren't to get, no, I don't even know who that would be. Well, probably Queen's Park if you look on at league position.
yeah.
At home, what would be a draw that would I don't even know. Get you excited for the next round. Where would you be looking if you weren't to get this sort of total open goal draw? Tough one, eh?
Uh, St Mirren away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Currently 0-0 at the time of recording. I'm paying total attention to this podcast with that right there.
Um, mm, it's hard to say. There's not really a lot of exciting draws left.
No.
I mean, you don't want to play Livy, let's be honest, because I think Livy or Queen's Park at home would be the obvious choice. Dundee, St Johnstone, Aberdeen away.
Dundee away's all
No.
right. That's
Dundee
that's
away, I
that's all right,
suppose.
and a
Yeah,
decent chance of winning.
aye.
PTSD, mate.
Mm,
So
we'll go with Dundee away. I mean, I think it's just avoid Celtic at all costs.
Yeah,
You'd have to say Aberdeen are obviously in a bit of a tailspin, but you don't know what sort of position they're going to be in like 4 weeks' time, do you?
yeah.
They might have some green shoots of recovery by then. The new players might be bedded in, so I'd probably avoid that. And even though our record in recent times has been good at Pittodrie, I still wouldn't want to play them away from home.
I agree. If I was to sort of pinpoint maybe like a Premiership side, if we were avoiding the Championship, I think I would be comfortable with anyone at home. Obviously I wouldn't want to play Celtic, but I think if we were like, I think as long as we avoid Celtic, I'd probably say the winner of tonight's game as well. I'd probably rather play Aberdeen over St Mirren or Hearts. At least at Easter Road. I don't know. I don't know about going to Aberdeen over St Mirren, but it isn't. You're right, Liam. It's not going to be the most exciting draw in the world, is it? It's been quite up until yesterday afternoon anyway, quite a boring Scottish Cup this year. Which, to be honest, if Hibs can continue to be boring and just be professional and beat lower league opposition all the way to the semis and the final, that would be a job well done as far as I'm concerned. Maybe in not so positive news, however, as we had sort of spoke about in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks,
Mm,
about the sort of finances on the back or before Ben Kensel left. Then when Ben Kensel left, was it 7.1 million operating loss announced for the previous year, of course.
mm.
Cause for concern there for you?
I think some of the numbers, both in isolation and when put together, I think give me a bit of concern. To post that big a loss in spite of record turnover, I think just shows you quite how much we've been speculating and not accumulating over the last year. Really, really quite worrying results. I think what probably worried me most was the fact that we had a CEO who saw fit at the end of February to tell everyone 7 months into the financial year that things were going to be better. Should he be still sitting there in a year's time? He did that with the benefit of being 7 months into the financial year and having had the January transfer window, which the club then quoted in the accounts as being the reason that spend was so
Yeah.
high because we had an unbudgeted January transfer window. So he's got the benefit of having seen all that play out, and he still comes out and makes a statement to say that things are going to be better. You know,
I don't know how much finishing fifth in
naive.
the league gets you. Like, because that was the ceiling last year, wasn't it? Do you know what I
Fifth,
mean? Like,
fifth in the league and what, maybe another round in the Scottish Cup. Does
I
that
know.
does that explain away what?
Maybe I
So
think we were
there's
out.
3.3 million quid's worth of a difference. It doesn't account for 3.3 million pound. That's for
I
sure.
think we were out of the Scottish Cup at the time he said that
At the
anyway,
end of
because
February,
well, we lost to Rangers last year in the
at
round
this
that we just
stage.
got beat. Aye.
Right enough, aye. So
So
no other financial gain to be made there. So, the jump from eighth to fifth would certainly wouldn't have bothered. I mean, I think, and someone said in the comments already, they're right. The Gordons are ultimately writing it off. So it's coming out of their wealth. They've committed to covering that underspend, which I suppose probably allays some of the sort of fears and concerns. But at some point, this has to be a profitable and sustainable football club.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be able to be profitable and sustainable without an owner or ownership group prepared to write off the losses. And I think that's the worry for me. The recruitment has just been so poor over the last few years that we're in a position where wages to turnover at 80%. We're still, this summer faced with the job of offloading a number of players off the books. Does that mean as well that there's a potential impact on the summer's activity and the budget and what we've really got to spend? Because
Yep.
we've been promised this massive overhaul. Is that realistic?
I think it certainly puts for me a little bit more meat on the bones as to what that Malky Mackay interview was on the day after the transfer window, because it was a little bit has to be something really good. Cardiff would have to come in and be a starter. Really like making loads of excuses as to why we didn't sign anyone ultimately, and to then just sort of. Oh, by the way, Liam's best pal, Olasanya, is having a stinker, an all-timer. Sorry, just that was what that hesitation was. St Mirren should absolutely be winning. But no, the Malky Mackay interview, I felt like that makes sense when you see the books. And not to give him any credit, but talking about being sustainable, talking about the Gordons putting money in X, Y, Z. I get the impression that this is going to be the last year that the Gordons are saying, right, they're going to say, right, we're going to cover this debt because we caused it ultimately with shitty management. We're going to clear the decks with the players, start again, and basically just, I suppose, like always, hope that the players you bring in are the right players and that they can um, perform on the pitch and start to put us back in the right stead, sort of on and off the pitch. But it's a big job, and it is, Craig, worrying that you're not going to go from 7 million losses in one year to in the money the next year. So with such a high level of turnaround in the summer as well, like this is going to be massive in the summer, isn't it?
We knew it was going to obviously be massive anyway. But it's horrendous, to be honest. 1-0, is it?
Aye.
Nice one. Well, that's cheered me up actually. Do you know what? The accounts are all good. They got in there. It's a massive job they've got in their hands to sort of to juggle that one. Time will tell whether there's going to be any influence. Obviously, we were apparently willing to spend 700 grand on
hmm
an unknown again in January. So we'll just have to wait and see, to be fair.
Aye.
A lot of it doesn't look good, but there has been a lot of investment in Easter Road. That's the one thing, and the revenue's up as well, which is good.
And of course, Player of the Year's in-house this year, so
Uh,
that'll be a real money spinner.
200 quid ahead it will be.
Aye, I know. I've seen a lot of people complaining about Player of the Year and this. I don't know. I try to be as sort of fuck the board as much as possible, but I think a lot of what they've announced for Player of the Year makes sense. Not to go down a route that you know we don't need to talk about unless you've got something to say on that, Liam. I don't know.
No, I don't really have anything to say. I think, there is, they are trying to commercialize everything as much as possible and charge people, money for virtually everything. And I think that is, we're talking about major losses in the accounts, so I can probably understand why they're doing that and then housing it and trying to run it, probably a reduced cost with a higher profit margin. Things like Player of the Year, things like the Albion Bar, behind the goals, player sponsorship, all those things.
Half-time challenge now, £100 a pop.
Those things have always been for the few and not for the many. Being honest, that is not, they're not charged at a price point that it's accessible to everyone to do that every year. And I think we did play the year once, what, 3, 4 years ago. We haven't done it
Aye.
again since. And I think primarily the driver for that has probably been, well, one, social calendars, but two, cost is an expensive thing to do, even if it is just once a year. Hospitality just generally, the cost for that has gone up. And I think, if I was to have a criticism of the ownership under, its current demise, I think they've spent a lot of time focusing on the few who can access these things and not the many
Yep.
who are the core supporter base who, go home and away, who don't have access to those things. I think they need to engage with that group more. I think they need to have a bit more understanding of who those people are, because I think we weren't going to talk about this purely because I forgot to put it on the agenda, but the 150th anniversary
Of
stuff
course,
obviously
yeah.
came out last week, which is really interesting. I think there's obviously been a bit of fan consultation that's gone into that, and they've developed plans. I think there's some good stuff in there. I think there's some stuff where I'd like to have seen a bit more meat on the bones, to use your language. And I would like I would like there to maybe some things in there that aren't there or aren't represented at all.
What did they
But I
get?
think
Were they too focused on the technicalities?
we'll say that. No, I mean, obviously everyone's really keen on hearing. I think that the strip seems to be, or the strips seem to be sort of foremost in a lot of people's mind. But there's obviously a lot of other things that as part of the 150 year, there's an opportunity for the club to make some money and commercialise them. I think if they're smart, they'll do a really good job of that. But they need to think about the Hibernian fan base in its totality, not just people that they
Yeah.
have access to them and speak to on a regular basis.
I think I think I can be fairly safe in saying I think we might capitalize commercially on our 150th year slightly better than we did a Scottish Cup one. Other
Uh,
because like I think we might have more than just a T-shirt with a couple of words printed on it. Look, I think that's Craig. I think that's enough money. Talk of money. It's back to league action on Sunday as we travel along to St Mirren, who, as it stands, are going to be coming off a win against Hearts. We're recording this; they've just went 1-0 up in the Scottish Cup. They are sitting below us. The games on Saturday are interesting. Do you know, like in terms of what they could potentially mean for us in league terms? Could be a real opportunity for us to close the gap on teams above us. Aberdeen travel to Dens Park, and Dundee United are at Celtic Park. And then Hearts play Rangers on Sunday as well. So not the worst fixtures elsewhere for us. You might expect that Hibs will pick up points on those above us. If we can get the job done, will we?
Uh, I actually hadn't even looked at the other fixtures to be fair, so that's a nice wee surprise. I didn't realise Dundee United were playing Celtic, so yeah, massive opportunity to pick up points there. Lovely jubbly. Uh, to be honest, I don't know if Hearts will drop points against Rangers. It's a time castle, isn't it? So
Well, we kick off, I think, an hour before them. If I'm no, they kick off 2 hours before us. They're 12 o'clock. We're
right,
two
so we'll
o'clock.
know.
is that a Sunday game? Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Fuck. Right.
Yeah, no, obviously Rangers are a bit of a shambles at the moment, so I would not be surprised whatsoever to see Hearts winning that game at Tiny. So uh, listen, look up, but we don't need to be
absolutely.
looking
Aye.
behind us at the moment. Look up. Dundee United dropping points. Obviously Aberdeen, there's every chance that they go to Dens and don't get a win as well. Uh, so I mean, as a certain G would like to tell us, every game's massive for Hibernian Football Club, but I think at the moment when there's so many teams round us in such a tight uh, sort of what is it, third to eighth, ninth, tenth, that sort of
Aye.
range. I think every week there's going to be potential for you to go up a couple of places or even go down a couple of places. So we'll need to be on our game, absolutely.
Even Liam, like, if you want to necessarily look at it as a massive weekend in terms of Hibs want to finish third in the league. If you wanted to be a little bit more pessimistic, it's a massive opportunity to actually just put a nice cushion between us and like being in the top six. You would move 6 points ahead of St
Definitely.
Mirren with a win. If Hearts were to win, you would stay 3 points ahead of them, depending on other results. Even if Kelly won and you win, you're still five ahead of them. It gives you that little bit of buffer that, despite this run that we've been on, we've still never had.
No, and I think your tendency when you're winning games is always to look up the table. But I've been glancing down every now and again just to see, and you know, incredibly, there is still only 7 points between us and Ross County, despite the run that we've been on, and only 3 points obviously between us and St Mirren Hearts in seventh and eighth. So I do think it is a really important game from the perspective of pulling away from that group, creating the buffer, but also in some ways sort of cementing your place as a top six side.
Mhm.
And you know, there's still, well, there'll only be 7 games to play after the game at the weekend. You know, if you're to get 3 points there, it's by no means a done deal. You've really got to start thinking that actually we can worry a little bit less about what's behind us in the league.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to be honest, I think it'll be, you know, irrespective of what happens tonight in their game against Hearts, I think it'll be a really tough game on Sunday because St Mirren seem to find something against us that they just really enjoy. And
Yeah.
they seem to really enjoy playing against us. And that for me is a wee bit of a worry.
I don't know what my like mad like made up perception is. I just feel like we always win at St Mirren, and I know obviously we'll go beat them on opening day of the season. Like I don't know why I think that. I don't know if we've had a good like run of games there. And like even I remember like under like Pat Fenlon we went there and won. Lee Griffiths scored. Like it's been a ground that I've always quite enjoyed going to, probably the opposite when we play them at Easter Road. But even just to, as we keep saying, put some little bit more meat on the bone. If Hibs were to move 6 points ahead of St Mirren now, I know our fixtures aren't the easiest after this. St Mirren's next 4 games are ourselves at home, Rangers at Ibrox, Hearts at Tynecastle, and Celtic at home. So, if we can, like, I think that's almost as good as saying if we can go 6 ahead of them now, they're not going to finish above us. And like, because I don't think they take many points out of that. And as it gets closer to that way of the split, it is almost starting to tick games off and go, right, that's right, Ross County aren't going to catch us. Do you know what? Like that sort of thing. And then once you've got that buffer, you can go, right, now we really are looking above us, if that makes sense.
To provide some balance to you in their final 4 games before their split are Motherwell away, Kilmarnock at home, Dundee away, and Ross County at home. So they're playing 4 of the bottom 5
Aye,
in
but if you've just
those
if
four
but if
games.
you're on the back end run
Mm.
they've won one league game in one, two, three, four, five, six, and then do you know what I mean? Like they could be coming off a run of 1 or 2 wins and fucking 10 at that point, and all of a sudden they're thinking about getting relegated as
I know,
opposed
but they'll
to.
still have the Scottish Cup as a distraction, won't they? So
No, look, I think there's a lot of hypotheticals in there, but it is a massive game, and
yeah.
we mentioned Kieran Bowie earlier, and I think you sort of nodded when I said it, Liam. Craig, would you be looking to bring Kieran Bowie in at the start as well?
Yeah, well, I would. I would. I read the Observer article. They done an interview with Gray a few weeks ago, and he seemed very, very, very timid about sort of committing to even like starting him within the next month or so. That was a couple of weeks ago, but I think they'll be nervous about starting him. But having said that, that's him now played a good sort of half an hour, 25 minutes up at Ross County on a couple quite sort of like not boggy pitches, but sort of
Yeah.
heavy pitches. So I think that's quite a good sign that he's come through them with no issues, both of them. And he looks strong and powerful. Uh, so I don't think St Mirren particularly is a terrible pitch or anything like that. So I'd like to see him start. I would, but I'd leave it up to the coaching staff to judge that one after, especially after the last time, because obviously, I mean, Kelly away, everybody was in the comments when we put the team out, like screaming for him to start, like, oh fuck's sake, why are we not starting him? Why are we starting him? And then obviously a week later he goes and gets re-injured again. So I think they'll be very very careful with him.
And of course, our injury specialist is on a 4 month leave of absence himself. Liam, is there anyone else? In fact, maybe if Kieran Bowie wasn't going to play, actually, then like, is it getting to a situation where we've got a problem with who plays beside Martin Boyle if it's not Kieran Bowie?
Maybe, maybe. I don't think. I think you can probably still play Gale there. I know he's maybe not having his sort of best run of form, but I think he can probably still play Gale there. Uh, just not for the 90 minutes, but you know that Bowie's
Mm.
going to come on at some stage anyway, so you've
Yeah.
got that in the bag. I don't really know what to do with Bicola, to be honest, because part of me says, well, he needs to play minutes to get some of that potential sharpness back, but
Yeah.
I also think it did look at points to me like, and I don't know what the full Harry on him, but it did look at points to me like maybe that didn't really, his attitude didn't really look kind of like he wanted to go and pull his socks up and get stuck in. I don't know. I worry a wee bit about it, but to be honest, I think now's the time for Bowie. It'll have been 9 days since he played against Ayr United. By the time the St Mirren game
Aye.
rolls round, that's a nice long break in his legs. I presume that he's obviously still on the grass, for quite a few days in between. But I would go with Bowie definitely.
It's actually crazy to think that we're talking about him starting, and that would be his first start for Hibs. Like that's crazy.
He's
Like, do you
got to
know?
start a game at some point, though, isn't it? Like
Aye.
ultimately, it's
Aye.
going to come at some stage, so they just have to judge whether that's soon enough or not.
And 60 minutes would sort of naturally, as Jack's just said in the YouTube comments, like 60 would sort of be the sort of next natural step up in terms of
Mm.
in terms of load. But anywhere else on the pitch that you would think about any changes? Liam, you mentioned the midfield struggled a little bit on Friday night. Like, is there anyone? I don't know, like if Joe Newell was fit or
Neil for Levitt if he was available.
I don't know if any of you heard David Gray's Hibs TV interview before the game last week. So he said that Alassane Mane wasn't fit to be available for selection because of the winter break in
Mm.
Denmark. But he said he was going to do a lot of work over the weekend. So I didn't know if I took that as like the fact he sort of highlighted that he would almost be available for the squad this weekend. Sure, like he didn't say it was going to be a couple of weeks. He kind of stressed they were going to do a lot of work over the next few days, and it was almost as if it was to then have him almost available immediately. I don't know if maybe I've interpreted that wrong, but I certainly wouldn't be throwing him in to start straight away. But it'd be good to see him on the bench and start to get a little bit more strength in that area as well. But I think the rest of the team, Craig, pretty much picks itself, maybe outside that second striker.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Midfield would be the sort of only area I would be looking to change. It'd be interesting to see Manny, like how long his sort of getting up to speed stage is, because for me, when we signed him, I sort of took that as a signing that was going to come in and make an impact straight away uh, in the first team. So I was a wee bit surprised when I heard that it was going to take quite as long for him to
Hmm.
be involved in the squad. But I don't want to jump in too much on it yet until I see how long it actually is. But I was probably a wee bit disappointed with that, to be honest.
Is he going to be another Melkerson where they've said, oh, he's definitely coming in to influence the team straight away, and then lo and behold, so he's never actually played on grass before, so he's not going to be able to play for 3 or 4 months, coming from a similar part of the world. But look, boys, I think look, Hibs, I was going to say it's not been a very exciting week. Hibs have moved on in the Scottish Cup and we're 11 games unbeaten, so maybe we're just getting used to it. But I think we're just about there. So can I get a wee score prediction for Sunday's game from each year, and then we will call it an evening and hopefully go and have a successful hate watch of our fellow Edinburgh team. What are you going for, Liam?
I'm going to go 3-1 Hibs.
Goal scorer?
Back in amongst the goals, I'm going to go Bowie, Boyle, Campbell.
Nice. What about yourself, Craig?
I'm going to stump for a relatively comfortable uh, 2-0 victory from two set pieces, and I'm going to go Bowie and O'Hora.
Nice. Okay, I like that. So what have we had there? Should we go 3-1 or 3-0? 3-1. So two goal victories, which means I've got to go one more. Right, but that's the natural next step. So I think Hibs are going to win the game 3-0 because Liam's clearly not been listening to us, Craig. Hibs don't concede goals, so we're not conceding.
It's not possible.
I do like the Kieran Bowie shout. I think he starts. I think he scores. I think all our excitement really comes to a head this weekend with Kieran Bowie up front. Martin Boyle gets back amongst the goals after a. I know, by the way, Harry mentioned that should be worried about his misses. That is a couple in it, but Martin Boyle back amongst the goals, and then the goal scoring machine that is Rocky Bashiri sends us home 3-0 up the road. Happy days. That's what I'm going for the Hibs this weekend. Aye. Any more for any more, boys, or shall we call it?
I think we shall call it.
Scott.
We shall call it. Excellent. Well, we'll be back next Monday on the back of next Sunday's game. Hopefully, with another 3 points in the bag for the Hibs. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.